counter.
But no, actually,
It feels very
Hello and welcome to the Unwanted Opinion podcast, the show in which me and my friends give our unwanted opinions on all things film. My name is Lewis and I'm joined today with Kyle.
Hello, how are y'all doing?
Good, and he's returned, Gonzalo.
Hey folks, how we doing?
It's funny you
doing
say
well.
returned. You've been in the same location the entire time. You've just
I have,
not
yeah.
been available.
I just had things.
Yes,
It's weird.
very
I
well.
don't usually have things, but whenever I'm here, I have things. So,
And you've got your classes
I do.
And
have
that
things.
are always booming.
Yeah, I got to teach one
I
after
was about to
this.
say that just before I want to get explained raiding because I was watching one of your things and it came up saying Gonzalo's been raided and I was like, what's going on?
What? What kind of classroom is
Okay,
this?
so yeah, no, I do Twitch streaming as well as
Mm-hmm.
my classes, and I had to learn this because I wasn't really well acquainted with Twitch. The only reason I started streaming in Twitch is because I didn't want to do it on YouTube because my previous employer was doing it on YouTube, and I, didn't want the competition kind of thing. But yeah, no. So there's this feature on Twitch when you're streaming called raiding, in which you can just essentially get all your viewers and transfer them over to someone else's stream. And so, like, it's like a thing people do to build community with each other. So after I finish a stream, I normally try to look at who's doing like anything within the art community and rate them to kind of like send them my
Oh,
viewers.
right. So it's like if you're finishing
people-
one of the streams,
Yeah,
you're like,
yeah.
instead of just ending it and all you're watching.
Exactly.
I get it. I was a bit confused.
It's like, you don't have to go home, but you have to leave kind of vibes.
You don't have to go
Let
home, but
me-
you just can't be here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, let me send you to another pub and you can continue your crawl
Yeah,
while I just close this
I
world
get
down.
you there.
Yeah.
Interesting. You learn something new.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, on this week's episode, I started something popped in my head. I'll tell you this later in the show.
Yeah.
But on today's episode, we're halfway through the year, halfway through the calendar year, and so it's time to do our midpoint check-in. We're going to talk about some of our favourite films that have come out this year, and maybe some of our least favourite films that have released in 2026. Who knows if these are the films we'll still be talking about by the end of the year, if these will still be our favourites, but we're going to round a couple off each. But, Gonzalo, a big
Yes.
change of circumstance happened in the show. We're going to start with you today.
Oh,
Because
wow.
you've seen a new blockbuster that me and Kyle haven't seen.
I
And
have.
so you
yes.
are going to talk to us about Supergirl. So, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Okay, so Supergirl. Obviously, comic book film, so there's always going to be a lot of drama and everything around this. You have the usual, oh, it's a female-led Supergirl movie. We hate women, so bunch of guys just being assholes online. That's pretty typical. We've all seen this bullshit happening. But in this case, this movie has had some mixed receptions, and a lot of it has come from actual like fans of the comic books because they've decided to make it almost a direct adaptation of Tom King's Bilquis Evely and Mattheus Lope's Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, which is a specific DC run that they did on a one kind of like entire arc of Supergirl's story. Honestly, just read through this literally last night before we did this, just to kind of like see what they were talking about. I kind of get it. I understand why people are disappointed. Not only visually stunning run of comic books, but actually really interesting and deep, and it goes into this whole kind of like idea of what Supergirl's place is within this universe and stuff. Really good. The movie essentially tries to adapt that. We were introduced to the character of Supergirl, played by the way excellently. Honestly, I have a lot of issues with this movie, but I think Millie Alcock's performance was definitely not one of them. She's generally carries this movie. It is a pretty like, I'm just gonna spoil it here. Like, it's a pretty like mid movie. Like, this is not a fantastic film. It's not a terrible film. It's just kind of meh.
Yeah.
That's my reaction to this film. It has some great moments. It has some terrible moments. It's just a pretty overall mid kind of film. But her performance in it is one of the things that like makes the core of this film,
Yeah.
and like makes like the scenes where you are actually enjoying yourself in this film have everything to do with her. So great performance on her part, but I very much understand a lot of the criticisms that I've been hearing from the comic book community about this adaptation. To begin with, making it a direct adaptation of this run in comics is always a risky thing. At the end of the day, any sort of adaptation always becomes something that's quite, it can create a lot of different opinions on whether they did the adaptation right or wrong or anything like that, and it gives a direct comparison
Yeah.
for people to judge by. Interesting idea. We got introduced to this character of Supergirl at the end of the last Superman movie. This idea of her being kind of like, an alcoholic, finding her way. She's kind of lost. She doesn't know what she wants to do with her life. She's between these two like homes of Krypton and now Earth, having to adjust to this new kind of like way of life. Very much not adjusting.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting story, to be honest. Like, it's a good setup to dive deeper into this character. Best parts of the movie are when we see the flashbacks about what happened, her time living, not specifically in Krypton, but in that bubbled city
Kandor?
that survived. Kandor,
Yeah.
that survived the destruction of Krypton. Obviously, it's a little different from the comic books. Brainiac is not involved in the bottling up of Kandor or anything like that. I understand doing that. Like, if you want to tell a cohesive story, as soon as you get so many different people involved into this kind of like can sidetrack a lot.
Yeah.
But essentially, it's this idea of, like you see in the trailers, Krypton didn't die in a day. I think, to me, that's the strongest part of the film. Whenever we see her talking about, this loss of the civilization and this kind of like backstory that she has and why she's feeling the way she's feeling, and overall her arc kind of sort of works a little bit. It is disappointing having seen, and the most disappointing thing to me is the visuals of this movie. The something about the art, like the art direction isn't exactly where I would have taken it. It's not a wrong direction. There's some interesting ideas when it comes to the art direction of making this very grungy kind of almost backwater looking universe with a lot of like different aliens and stuff. There's
Yeah.
something interesting about it, a lot of practical effects with like different masks and costumes and stuff. I don't have a specific issue with the grungy direction they took. It is a very strong departure from the very Art Nouveau kind of aesthetic of the book, which I think would have been a way more interesting aesthetic to work with, because we have seen this kind of grungy. It doesn't help the allegations of people being like, oh, this is very Guardians of the Galaxy looking.
I was going to ask that. Yeah. Is it a bit
Yeah.
too Guardians vibe?
It's trying to get away from Guardians but being grungy-er, but then it loses all of the color that Guardians had that made its like
And you-
universe work.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right about the comics. I've seen panels
Yeah.
of the comics. It's such a
Yeah.
really nice. I mean, I don't know if you can
It's-
find a cool panel
I
to
mean,
show.
It's generally like this one, right? When they get on the bus stop here. This one's fucking stunning.
Yeah,
For
like
the viewers
that's-
that can see the
Wow.
video.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a really kind of cool visual to have, and I do
Why?
agree that
Yeah.
Why do you think they went a different direction?
Probably ease of production. I think finding props for. I mean, it's like I don't know how much this movie cost. I actually should have looked into that, but like, it definitely is way like more cost to actually like create these very
Yeah.
synthetic, like this very like stylized approach to like an Art Nouveau thing with all these helmets, all these things. Whereas like this kind of like more grunge, it's easier to just like
Yeah.
bash a couple props
Yeah,
together and
it's-
call it a day.
170. 170 was the budget,
Yeah.
so it's
I
a
was
lot of money.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, good pal. I've got like a couple of questions. I've just like
Yeah, of
of
course,
stuff that I
yeah.
want to see if you would kind of give a good answer to. So
Yeah.
the title. Now, this is the big thing that
Yes.
I was worried about when they initially announced it. So when James Gunn originally did that panel way back when, announced all the films, it was originally titled Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow.
Woman of Tomorrow.
And they've
yeah.
obviously dropped it. They did drop the legacy from Superman Legacy.
Yeah, they
Now,
did.
I wonder if it's to the point where it's like, if they were keeping it, where they're going to have to do a Wuthering Heights when they put it in quotations of Women of
Yeah,
Tomorrow. Do
yeah.
you think that the dropping of the title is maybe suggesting that as much as they used it as a straight adaptation, Were they a bit
see,
worried that it's
I
not giving you a good
don't
shit
know.
adaptation?
The fact that they started by announcing it means that anyone who gave a shit already was going to be disappointed by
Yeah.
the changes. So,
Right.
like, the fact that they announced Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow as, like, the thing they were adapting, and it's very clearly an adaptation. Like, the
Yeah.
plot is the same. The same, like, it's more or less the same plot beats. We get introduced different midline threats here. The actual, like, villain changes a lot. That's one of the main changes and one of the things people didn't like. Honestly, I wasn't upset at the performance. I generally think that like Matthias, fuck me, Shaw and Knights, there's I can't guys.
Yeah, that's
Matthias did a great fucking job. He was incredibly disgusting and despicable. It's just his
Can I
evil character was pretty one note
can I ask?
compared to Krem. Yeah,
Yeah,
in
I
the
was about to
comic
say,
books. Yeah.
could you show us what Krem in the comics looked like? Because I
Yes, so
actually
Krem
find
looks
him.
very
He
differently.
looks very. I don't know if you've seen Lewis, what Krem looks like in the film, but he's kind of got like metal.
I know. I've seen the
stuff.
trailers. Yeah. Yeah.
In the
Yes.
comic, I always thought he looked. It was almost a bit more intimidating in the comics because he was a bit like.
He was a handsome guy.
He was a
He's essentially a
handsome
handsome
guy,
guy. And
which-
the casting could have allowed for this because,
Yeah.
like, the actor that plays Krem in the movie is a handsome man, but they just lather him with like little dots and piercings and stuff to make him look like a punkish. Which I also do have a little bit of a more like. This is more politics, but I do have an issue with the whole image of like punk people as evil shit. Like that makes absolutely no sense because it tends to be the opposite. Like this is a counterculture that goes against things like fascism and stuff,
Yeah.
and they use that aesthetic to represent what is essentially a race of sex traffickers.
Yeah.
So
Wow, okay.
yeah. So that's an aspect that's not in the comic books. They're genocidal maniacs in the
Yeah.
comic books. This kind of like group of pirates. I also do like in the comic how Krem is not part of this group. He is just an asshole opportunist that
Oh.
ends up joining the genocidal maniacs
Right.
at some point. But he is not like the leader of these genocidal maniacs.
No.
He just ends up joining them in the end.
Yeah.
Lobo's also completely absent from the.
Well,
Yes.
that's what I was going to ask next. Is
Yeah.
Lobo because obviously, quote
Jason
unquote,
Momoa,
famously, James Momoa
fucking
was
great
back.
as Lobo. Honestly, great as Lobo. That was really fun.
It's. I mean, obviously, I've not seen the film, but
Yeah.
seeing clips of the trailer, I'm like, is it that much of a different performance from his Aquaman? He's doing a
It's
lot
not.
of woos. It's not okay.
It's okay. So the thing is, like, he is very similar to his Aquaman performance. It's just to me, like, I don't know if this is like, oh, he's great performer or like he's just very well cast. Lobo works really well for him. Lobo's a pretty disgusting character that has to be charismatic. Like he has to because like he's a pretty fuck us like asshole of a character. And if you don't like give him a little bit of that charisma, you kind of get lost in like, person doesn't care
Yeah.
about human life, kind of like, genocided his entire species kind of guy. So like he works really well. Like I think it's more of a like calling out his casting being really good rather than like whether his performance or not was good. But like yeah, essentially like I think it worked. I don't know why he was in this movie. I don't know why he needed to be part of this story. I can see that they used him in replacing in some of the moments. So essentially, you have the horse Pegasus super horse thing.
Yes, I know the image of.
Yeah. So there's some moments where he takes over that part, like certain moments in the climax where like, oh, everything seems lost, and suddenly he shows up and messes things up, but like in a positive way, kind of thing. I didn't dislike him. I didn't dislike his interactions with the like the side character of the girl. Yeah, it's just it does feel like it's giving me the vibes of like the problems with the MCU of like cameos for no reason kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay.
I wasn't sure if he was here because of a studio mandate. Essentially, I wasn't sure if he was here or because they just found this kind of works really well. I also find that the direction they went with the Marauders kind of screws up the whole visual distinction with Lobo being there because Lobo also has a lot of like punk energy with his biker thing, and he does seem very similar aesthetically to the Marauders, which again begs the questions why they didn't go with the more piratey look for them.
I thought from the
Yeah.
trailers he was part of that
No,
gang.
exactly.
Then
Yeah.
yes,
Right.
It
that
it
shows a
creates
problem.
visual confusion, which leads to my main issue with this movie. Don't get me wrong, the pacing's not very good, but the main thing for me is the visuals. I feel like both the cinematography, the actual like the choreography around the fight scenes and the way they're shot
Hmm.
and the way everything looks, it just left me incredibly disappointed. Like this
Mhm.
feels like a Thor Dark World type of production where I'm
Ooh.
like, why did you
Yeah.
choose to shoot everything like this? What is the point of this? What is the meaning behind these decisions? Everything is very dark, but it's not a striking darkness. It's not a cinematic darkness where like you get some pure beautiful pure blacks with some contrast of light. It's very muddled. I understand this kind of look makes it easier and cheaper to add VFX to it, but it also feels very directionless. And I've heard rumors that this movie was re-edited a couple of times, and there has been like some like remixing and things like that happening. You can tell, like you can definitely tell with the pacing and the editing. Overall, a little disappointed. I wasn't expecting much from this movie, so I went with really low expectations. So I had a fun time because, again, lead actress does a really good
Yeah.
job, and the core conflict makes a lot of sense because, again, it was taken from a well-written book. But yeah, it is disappointing. They introduced some ideas that could have led to something. They introduced this idea of the Marauders, like essentially being sex traffickers for young girls, which again creates this kind of like, sexism tension kind of thing
Yeah.
that could have been explored. It really doesn't go pretty much anywhere. And again, like aesthetically, the Marauders feel like they're worse off because of the stylistic directions that were taken when it came to the actual like design of their costumes and things. Krell as a villain lost all of its interesting gusto of being this like slimy opportunist
Yeah.
handsome man. I think having him handsome also would have like added to the added themes of like sex trafficking and
Mm.
like up like taking advantage of young women that like this movie for some reason the director wanted to talk about. For me it's also like a pretty fucking heavy topic that I would
Yeah.
not have jumped directly into. Like it's a pretty heavy thing that I might have like wanted to steer away from, but it was a choice that was made. I don't think they did anything with it,
Okay.
and overall mid. It was a mid film.
Yeah,
That
that's what I've
Yeah,
kind of seen as the kind
yeah.
of general audience reactions, and I am interested. I think
Hmm.
now this is interesting because obviously, depending on what they do, because like you said in the film, does it tease at all the downfall or Kandor or any is there any tease to any relation to be Brainiac
No,
just because of Man
no.
of Tomorrow is going to have Supergirl in it as well as
Yeah.
Brainiac, so
No, so the bottled city of Candor essentially is bottled by her dad,
right.
essentially, like which was like he was always a scientist and stuff like that. So like
See,
it's this idea that like,
yeah, I do wonder
yeah.
because originally in the comics there are adaptations or sorry,
Mm,
interpretations of Brainiac that
yeah.
is a computer made on Krypton.
Yes,
Very
yes.
it's like it's very Ultron made by
Very
Hank
90s.
Pym sort of thing
Yeah,
where
yeah.
sometimes
We
that
saw
that
that
types in.
we
Um,
saw that in the recent animated My Adventures with Superman.
is it was that in it?
Brainiac.
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
So
Brainiac, and that one is that essentially,
yeah,
yeah.
I'll wait and see. Like I'm not jumping to see it in
Mm,
cinemas, but if it does turn out that kind of diving
mm,
into Supergirl's backstory is going to be somewhat relevant for the Man
yeah.
of Tomorrow, I will
Mm,
watch it eventually. However,
yeah.
yeah, from the general vibes of the audience, I'm not. And like you're saying, it's not just when it's a lead woman
Mm,
a lead female superhero film,
yes.
you do
Yeah.
obviously expect that genuine
Oh
levels of ignorance from fans. But what's getting
yeah.
me more, like you said, is that it's genuine fans of the comic going,
And that's where because that's why I wanted to read this.
yeah,
I've
because
seen the
you
film
wanted
and
to,
I'm like, the reason I rushed to read this book is because I was like, okay, I need to know exactly what they're talking about. And I get it now.
I mean,
Like,
it's the
it
most
is.
work you've ever done, so I'm proud of you.
Yeah. I actually
So
put in
what
a
would
little
you
bit
what
of
would you
work.
give it as a
Yeah.
score then?
So, God, for me, the moments of that flashback, and when you see back to like her childhood in Kandor, and like this whole like relationship with her parents and stuff, that worked really, really well, and I think she brought a really good strength to this role. It is just overall a very disappointing movie. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think the director was very capable of bringing this to life. Having seen his filmography before, honestly, I
Yeah.
get why he was kind of unable to do this. He was a
Mm.
pretty strange choice. I haven't really liked much of what his output has been. You guys talked about
What's he done previously? Sorry, I don't.
the most recent one was the one you guys talked about, the financial markets one with like the GameStop thing.
Dumb
Some
money.
money.
Dumb Money. That was
What?
the last
What?
previous one, big one that he did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not the kind of trajectory I would have seen that
Yeah,
going.
and I didn't really enjoy Dumb Money when I watched it after talking to you guys, especially because I think knowing a lot about the specific community it was talking about and stuff like just left a lot of bad taste in my mouth about like the ignorance and lack of research that was done in the creation of that money.
Mm.
It felt like, oh, let's rush to create this movie that's based on nothingness. And honestly, I feel that same exact like lack of interest in the original source material happening here. Like
Here.
it feels like a James Gunn or one of the execs was like, "Hey, Supergirl Woman Tomorrow, one of the most acclaimed Supergirl runs. What if we adapted this?" And
Yeah.
then they just put it on the table of a guy who was not really interested in doing it. Um, yeah, a general lack of interest in the source material, weird additions that lead nowhere, and a cast that's trying their very best to make this movie good, despite
Yeah.
everyone
I was
else
just gonna say,
working
so
against them.
he's
So,
like
yeah,
more I say notable works would probably be I
yeah,
Tonya,
yeah.
and then
Which I have.
one of
Yeah.
Lewis's favorite films, Cruella.
Oh yeah, Corella was
Yeah,
great, wasn't it?
one of Lewis's favorites.
Did you know that the reason she kills puppies is because puppies killed her mom? Yeah.
Oh,
Fantastic
That's how
writing.
you write a villain origin story,
Well,
and that's
yeah,
the amount of depth that the villain in this
in this
movie
film
gets.
gets that's interesting.
Um, yeah, no,
okay.
yeah, 6 out of 10.
Okay.
It's not overly offensive. It's not the worst thing I've seen all year. It's just not very good, and I
Mm.
see a lot of people trying to make it
Yeah.
good within the film. I can imagine a lot of cast and a lot of crew put a lot of work into this. But you can barely see glimmers of that actual like imagination and originality pop up. I will give a shout out to the alien bug pooping popcorn.
Oh,
One
brilliant.
of my favorite gags of the whole movie. So yeah,
That's what you want.
Good.
yeah,
Okay, so thank you very much, Gonzalo. That was very in depth Supergirl review. But you
yeah.
covered a lot of ground, which is good. So we're going to move on now to talk about our favorite films of the year so far, and maybe some honorable mentions, and maybe some things we didn't like. So, Kyle, I'm going to come to you first, right? Because I know you've got your list there and ready.
Yep. So
What do you want to start with? Do you want to start with doing some honorable mentions? Do you want to start with something you didn't like?
I'll do an honorable mention and then I'll go into something I didn't like.
Okay.
So honorable mention. So obviously, some things we don't talk as much on this podcast, which obviously, I mean, I can understand, but it does get recognised is documentaries, and I do occasionally like to watch a good few documentaries. And one recently that I just decided to sit down and watch on Netflix is Untold Chessmates. And
Right.
that is the story about Magnus Carlsen, who is famously the world. I assume he's still the world #1 chess player, and his challenge against this man Hans Niemann, who was this up and coming New Yorker chess player who was essentially he was streaming on Twitch on chess.com, and they did a game in which he won, and Hans Niemann accused him of cheating. And then somehow, and it's incredible how this actually started, because it started from somebody suggesting it on a Twitch stream that Hans Niemann was using a certain device.
Oh yes, I remember.
In
Always
him.
Sunny made a parody episode of
Yes,
this.
yes, they did.
Yeah.
Yes, so
And it became really popular
and it
because
became
of how
very popular how it was, and it was
yeah.
a really good because it was insane how like in depth the chess world is. By the way, like it's insane. Like we were watching this, I was watching it with Hannah, and I was like, "This is chess."
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
but it's the fact that this whole like scandal started because somebody on Twitch suggested it. There was never any grounds for him doing it. It's just and it's just escalated. But I really found it was really interesting, and it was a really well done documentary. And obviously they were both involved in the making of it, and it was a good kind of competition of chess. And we don't talk about documentaries as much, but I really liked it, and my god, I could have watched more because you get into the really depth of the nitty gritty chess.
Kyle, if you want to learn more about this, there's a wonderful video essay by Sarah Said,
Right.
where she essentially talks about the history of cheating in chess, leading up to this.
They do go into a bit of history of the cheating in chess. But anyway, that's just an honorable mention. I actually quite enjoyed that, and it's just we don't talk about documentaries as much. I'm gonna go to one of my disappointments of the year, and purely because I only watched it because somebody in my family purchased it, which I don't know why, and I was like, well, it's not costing me anything to watch this film, so I shall watch it. And that is Michael, the big biopic of Michael Jackson, which, spoilers, is a part 1, which is one of the reasons why I'm a bit F on this film.
Which is really, it astounds me they're doing I mean, obviously it's made almost $1 billion.
Yeah.
It's the most successful music biopic, I think, biopic full stop of all time.
Yeah.
But considering the stuff they left out of this film, it's really interesting
let's get into this. So I'm going to give a quick... Because we've never actually talked about Michael because...
We didn't.
None of us wanted to see it. The funny thing is, and I should preface it in case anybody who actually enjoys this film listens, I don't mind Michael Jackson as an artist. I do like some of his material. I'm not obsessed with him. However, saying that, like, most of the biopics I've watched, music biopics, I've never been obsessed with the artists, like Elvis, sort of thing, Elton John, Rockman, and Queen. Queen, I would say, is probably the most interested in an artist out of all of them, but I actually don't like Bohemian Rhapsody, so I can't say I'm biased. So I'm going to say that going in. So yeah, what we have here, and this is a really, really jarring film. It's like, you're not even looking at the script or the story for a moment. It's a really just badly edited film in a sense that what you get is maybe 10 minutes of some backstory, and then you'll get a random 5-minute recreation of one of his songs. That is done really well, don't get me wrong. But then I'm like, why? It's nothing different. It's not, and I'm gonna probably compare it a lot to Rocketman, because I do feel Rocketman's one of the best music biopics in terms of doing something different with the genre and doing it more of a musical fantasy, as you would say. And I'm like, why would I want to just watch a recreation of the Thriller music video when I could just watch the Thriller music video?
One of the best music videos
which
of all
is one
time.
of the best music of all time, with the actual artist. And obviously, no offense, so Jafar Jackson is the nephew of Michael Jackson, plays the role fine, and it's his first thing, and I think it's mostly because he's got the moves, because he moves like his uncle, and it is extremely talented. And so I'm just saying, like, you're watching it, and then you get like 10 minutes of interesting story, and then you get 5 minutes of, here's another performance of a song that you like, we're just going to put it in here because it'll get you moving, it'll get you dancing, and there's no real reason for it. Like, there's no major plot reason for, especially the Thriller one, because it's like, it's just there for the sake he's doing Thriller, and
it says a lot about his state of mind at that time.
I'm going to get into that, and I'm going to say the absolute best part of this film is Colin Domingo as Joseph Jackson. He is genuinely the best part of this movie, because he plays that role so well. And the film is like kind of, I'm not going to say chapter, but it does kind of jump in the time periods, because you obviously start off with Michael being quite young as part of the Jackson 5, and then him getting to his more solo stuff, and then essentially it ends with him leaving the Jacks, or kind of cutting ties with the Jackson 5, and it's on the release of Bad, his second album, pretty sure. And what we get the kind of start is it's like 5 minutes in one time period where you get something and it quickly jumps to the next time period. You get comes to something, you jump, you jump, you jump. But what
Rinse and repeat.
rinse and repeat. But what I have to say, so Colin Domingo's portrayal as Joseph is really good. He really does give that kind of like I think I described it to Lewis as it's like a negative version of King Richard, where King Richard, obviously, if nobody knows, was the father of Selena and Venus Williams, and the kind of told story of them getting into tennis. And there is mirrored signs because he was also a very he's pushing, trying to get the best out of them because he knew they're going to be good. However, Joseph does go a more kind of emotional manipulation and physical abuse side of things. Now, this is where we get a wee bit, controversial in terms because of certain things. The thing that's interesting with what they decide to show and then decide to not show is we see at the start a young Michael missing out of his childhood. Now, it is shown that there is a huge age gap between him and the rest of his brothers, so he was never really kind of close with them because one, they were forced to rinse and repeat practice. They would do a show, they would come in, Joseph's like, right, put the gear up, we need to get this, we need to practice this number again, and stuff like that. And Michael is a young kid, and he just wants to be a young kid, and when you kind of see them become Jackson 5 comes to rise in popularity, and they get a big house, and they all get their stuff, and Michael just fills it with toys. He's obviously obsessed with Disney, has a huge love for Peter Pan, and that's the themes of never growing up. And he constantly buys animals. Like, he has a giraffe, he has a llama. Bubbles is introduced. A very CGI looking Bubbles, but Bubbles is there. And it's like, he's constantly wanting to have friends. He's constantly trying to get his brothers to play Twister with him or something like that, play games. Like, he'll go to the store, and they show a lot of the time him going to like hostels and seeing kids and just chatting with kids and playing video games with them. Like, there's obviously, they keep showing the fact that he had a really traumatic childhood and it wants to be stuck as a kid. But we do not touch on any of the negatives. And again, I want to preface this by saying I'm not suggesting there was court cases. Yes, I'm not suggesting anything sexual happened in that sense, but there was definitely levels of unacceptable closeness to young children without the presence of their adults. And I'm going to emphasize, because I've had heated discussions with family members of mine who are huge Michael Jackson fans, and I'm not saying that, but I'm saying there's a level of that, and it's genuinely like, and I'm trying to like compare this to other films. It's like, let's watch the Elvis film, let's watch his absolute skyrocket. But we're not going to mention the Vegas stuff and his downfall and his mental deterioration and all that kind of stuff. Let's watch Rocket Man. We'll talk about Elton John's struggles, as people say, but we won't talk about any of the kind of drugs and stuff. We're not going to talk about the negative stuff. Queen, we'll mention Freddie Mercury's good, but we're not going to talk about AIDS. Like, we can't talk about that negative stuff. It's that sort of thing. I'm like, it's... Like, it kind of would make me feel more for him, because you're seeing that the consequences of his younger self, is not his younger self, his younger life and his family have done so that he doesn't know what's right. And then there's a sense where he is extremely talented. And don't get me wrong, they show how talented he is. And he was obviously an extremely talented person, but he was a flawed person. And I don't particularly like how we are just completely ignoring this fact, but also teasing it in the sense of showing him as his like childhood whimsy, but they're almost going like, he's just a
I think Kyle, this probably comes from the fact that like a lot of Jackson's estate had like influence in
because
this movie.
This is the thing, because originally it was going to end with that case, with the first case, which makes a lot more sense, because you see the kind of like layout of him and having this kind of clearly issues of childhood and wanting to be a kid, and then because obviously there's one of the Jackson sisters, I can't remember her name, it's gone from me, but she's not in the film at all because she didn't want.
Was it Janet? It's Janet Jackson.
Jackson, yeah. Because one of the, I'm trying to think of which other. There's two sisters. There was a few people in it and out of it, and Janet Jackson refused to be in the film because it's a very complicated estate, clearly, and I was like not saying disappointed, but I'm like, you're clearly
Like
not
we had
wanting to do
similar
it.
things though. Yeah, like we had a similar issue with like I remember for some goddamn reason I watched the Bohemian Rhapsody movie,
Yeah.
and a similar thing occurred there where like clearly the three other members of the band
Yeah.
had input in the making of this movie. So
Mhm.
every single scene where they did drugs or there was debauchery
Mhm.
or anything
Yeah.
of that sort, it was always the three of them being like, "No,
Yeah.
let's not do
It's
drugs."
Yeah.
it's and I'll
And the
probably
one person that's not there being
yeah.
like, "Yes, let's do
Mhm.
drugs, kids."
I'm gonna say this
And
to
like,
yeah.
you know,
I'll
yeah,
say this to Lewis and he'll probably appreciate it more. It's like if Dick Cheney got in control of doing Vice and it ends with him being amazing. Like that's
Yeah.
the like not maybe to
Uh,
that level, but that's the kind of vibe
no,
I'm
I
getting
know.
from this.
There's. I mean, I thought when they announced the song was being made, I believed it was like this is just going to be a whole can of worms. I
yeah,
thought this is just. I didn't. I was like, I don't ever think you could really do a Michael Jackson movie because, one, if you do the very honest version of it, Michael Jackson essentially was. He wasn't the genesis of like a parasocial relationship. Probably the Beatles or
mm,
Elvis was probably that sort of thing before his
yeah,
time. But he really was like, if you
peak
go back and
one,
see
Yeah.
some of the
yeah,
levels his fans went to about,
Mm.
especially when his first court case ever happened, it's kind of disturbing. It's like the
There's
fan
that
base is
video.
genuinely
Yeah.
insane, and that's carried on to this day,
mm,
and that's why like the big argument of and the structure of the narrative
mm,
protects that criticism in some degree to what you're
yeah,
saying, Kyle, about like why did they not include that stuff or they should have included that stuff because it's not honest. But then everyone goes, well, it's this period of time. All the allegations came after 1988, right?
Yeah.
So
but that's
therefore,
a
the film ends in
choice.
1988,
Yeah, but
right?
that's a choice they made
That's a choice,
to
right?
end it then. Yeah,
Uh-huh. And yeah, I mean, and but that's what's really surprised me is okay. I went, okay,
mm,
you've chosen to do that to avoid any
Yeah.
discomfort, anything awkward happening. Yes, I understand there's legalities as well, there's problems with that. But you've now announced a sequel that cannot possibly avoid that. And I really, really, I just don't believe the sequel of this film is going to address it in the correct
See,
way.
this is
And I
the
don't
yeah.
think, I mean, this whole film is it's got a new term, but I don't know it under like sports terminology is what you call sports washing. And it was really famous when Qatar was hosting the World Cup because it was a really obviously everyone knew FIFA. It was rigged. It was they put in. I know I've kind of gone on a tangent here, but they put in like bribes to ensure
Yeah.
Qatar gets the World Cup. Everyone knew that, right? And of course, the creation of these stadiums and all of that, they were used a lot of migrant workers who died creating these stadiums and were essentially underpaid. Um, and obviously, you couldn't have a lot of like LGBTQ people couldn't really even go there because it's illegal to be gay there. So there's this whole thing. But what they used the World Cup to is sort of protect and sort of put the sheen over the country that everything's okay. And that's kind of what this film is for the Jackson estate.
Yeah.
And if you go on Letterboxd and you go on Rotten Tomatoes and see the user scores, we're talking like 500,000 people have given this thing 10 out of 10. We're talking like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people who are obviously already Michael Jackson fans
Yeah.
are going to
yeah,
enjoy this film anyway. And look, I
yeah,
had friends who went to see the film and like, oh, why? When are you going to go see it? Because they know I see everything, right?
mhm,
I was like, when are you going to go see it? And I kind of hate being that guy where I see the trailer, I've seen the criticism, I've looked at it and being like, because I hate it when people do this for films I like. I'm like, no, go see the film because it's great. And
mhm,
everyone's like, oh, I don't know, like I've heard this or I've seen this from the trailer. It's not my cup of tea.
mhm,
And I looked at everything in Michael and I'm like, I will not enjoy a single moment of that film. I hate music biopics in the first place. I hate how,
mhm,
and as Kyle said, the rinse and repeat attitude of it sounds
Yeah.
mind-numbingly boring to me, and I've seen it a billion times before, so I don't care. But the Michael thing was particularly awkward or uncomfortable, and everything feels kind of weird and wrong about it. But look,
yeah.
it's made like $1 billion.
I've,
I said this
yeah.
before it was going to be like the biggest biopic ever. It has been. It is what it is.
I've got a review here, so I was just scrolling on, and this I think genuinely sums up what I feel.
Mm.
Time jump, hit song everyone loves. Time jump, hit song everyone loves. Terribly edited dance sequences. Time jump, zero introspective. Time jump, the end. That is
Yeah.
this film.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I mean, I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 10. I really didn't like this film. I felt it again. putting all the personal side stuff and the story aside, I think it's just a poorly made
And
biopic.
that's what I've heard.
And
It's just not a
like
well-made, boring
we
film.
just
Yeah.
that
Yeah, because
alone.
we're talking about all the controversy, we're talking about all
Yeah,
the real life background to it. But even if you take that out of it,
but
it's still
just
just a
just taking
boring
it as
film.
a movie,
Yeah.
I just don't see it as a well made film, and
Yeah.
yeah, and honestly, it would depend on how they go around doing the sequel, which I
Mhm.
think they are filming. Because I'm pretty sure
Mm.
there has been like images of,
Mhm.
pardon me, Jafar already like
It's
trying to film on like Netherland,
it's
which
such a
I'm
weird
just.
choice to cast someone who's related to Michael Jackson as Michael Jackson. To me, that's just
I mean,
such an
you say that, but
to
like
me that just
he does look it.
I'm sure he's great, but like to me that just like shows how like dependent on that estate this film is
Oh, I
from the
mean,
Mhm.
start.
it's like yeah. Anyway,
Yeah,
that's my I say disappointment. I'm only
Mhm.
saying
yeah.
that because we
Well,
talked about
yeah, you
Disclosure
weren't
Day pretty
expecting.
recently. Um,
Mm,
but yeah, it was a
yeah,
yeah, it
I've
was
heard it's as
It was
Frank
a
said
yeah.
it.
it's yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay, well, I guess I'll try. I'll do something positive. We'll circle back. We'll circle back round, right? And
yeah,
I'll do
Yeah.
a couple honorable mentions, and I'll talk about my favorite
Mm.
film there. I'm not going to do one of my own honorable mentions because I know for a fact it will be Kyle's favorite film, so I'm not going to mention that just yet. I'll let him talk about that when the time comes. Look at him smiling because he knows what it is.
yep,
But another couple honorable mentions I'm going to give to The Secret Agent, which was up for Best Picture. I mean, obviously, this is the difficult thing with here. I say this every time here
It
in
got
Scotland. Of course,
released. Yeah.
we get films that come out late last year in America that come here in like January, February because of
yeah,
Oscar stuff. This was the Oscar nominated um, film directed by Kleber Filio, and yeah, it's set in like 1977 Brazil, and it's sort of when this sort of dictatorship was happening in the country, and you have this group of people who are trying to sort of this underground resistance and trying to flee the country. Um, and I just thought the film is this weird anomaly of a film. It jumps different styles and different tones, but does it really successfully. It's a film that sometimes it's weirdly about like university funding at some points, and then it's about fascist rule. And yeah, and it does have these really stylistic choices where I found it really really funny how like actually who's the main guy in it? Wagner.
Mm.
Um, what's his name? I forgot the
Oh,
guy's name.
Armando Solimoes. Solimoes. I don't know how to speak Brazilian.
that's good.
um, yes, right. So
Parlare no português.
I
No.
thought it was I thought it was Wagner who played who,
Oh, wait, that's the character name.
who
Sorry,
played Pablo
Wagner
Escobar.
Moura.
Thank you,
Wagner
thank you.
Moura. I
Um,
read the character name.
mhm.
He was in Civil War.
God.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yes, and
yeah, he
that's what I
was
was
pretty
about
good.
to say, right? Him,
Yeah,
they take some stylistic things from Civil War, mainly with the photography, and they implement that
yeah.
stuff here, which I thought was a really nice
Mm,
sort of correlation between the two.
mm,
But it's just invigorating. It's so exciting. It's weirdly like it's like a long film, but
right.
it kind of
mm,
keeps you entranced through this sort of weird. I can't really describe it. It doesn't really have like a specific like style or tone
Mm-hmm.
to it. It's quite like
mm,
many things, kind of like this guy's sort of trying to become a different person and trying to get out of this dictatorship, which I really thought was brilliant. And the ending is phenomenal.
mm.
As well as that, I'm going to talk about No Other Choice, which was stunningly locked out of any Academy Awards. I thought it was absolutely fantastic and would have been in my top 10 of last year. Didn't even get a foreign language film
Mm.
nomination. Directed by Park Chan-wook, South Korean film, and
You
stars
talked about this one when it came out, right?
yeah,
Because I remember
yeah,
your review of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
um, and Lee Bong-hyun, who famously like the villain in Squid Game.
Yeah.
Um, and the plot of it, I mean, it's many things. It is a dark comedy, but also being really dramatic and really sad and poignant at times. About this man, Mansu, who's been working at this paper company for over 20 years, and then once the paper company has been bought over by this American monopoly, they have to cut about 20% of their staff.
Mm.
And he is one of the people who's cut from that. And then we kind of do this year time jump, and he's in like counseling for a job for like people who've lost their jobs or been made redundant. And then he finds an opportunity to get a job he knows he'll be perfect for. And the pressure's on. They're going to lose their house. They've lost. They even have a little joke like we can't even afford Netflix anymore. And then he knows he'll be perfect for this job, but then he finds out there's 6 other candidates who also would be perfect for the role. And so he then jumps to the idea of, well, if I eliminate these 6 people, I'll be a shoo-in for this role.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's like a perfect, like, it sounds like an Ealing comedy. It sounds like something like Kind Hearts of Coronets, or like the Lady Killers sort of thing. It's dark.
So much good like satirical capitalism critique from Korea.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
I mean that's like a lot of what their films really talk about and discuss. I said that as well. Like, obviously,
it's like the artist screaming about what's actually happening. Yeah.
I mean, Park Chan-wook's talked about this before, so there's obviously Bong Joon-ho and Parasite. So Squid Game, we even had that commentary as well. So it's really, really prevalent there because it's such a competitive job market as well, and you feel that pressure in the film. And yeah, I just thought it was utterly engrossing. I mean, Park Chan-wook, his films always look astonishing. There's some really beautiful transitions and stills in this film. I thought it was phenomenal, and the ending is the best ending I've seen this year. It's just so intelligent and also really depressing. So I cannot recommend it enough. But I'd say the film, because it is officially a 2026 release film, I'm going to give it so far to Rose of Nevada, which is Mark Jenkins' third major film, starring George McKay and Callum Turner. And he's guy who did Ennis Men and Bait years ago. I think he's I think he's Steve for Theory. I think he's utterly brilliant. And the plot alone of this film, I love it. So it's like set in this England fishing village, which is like been essentially like feels like it's abandoned. Feels like there's barely anyone left in this village. The buildings are falling apart. Things are like rotting. I think, and like even it begins with like George McKay's character trying to fix the leak in this old house roof. There's like people having to go to food banks. Everything's just. I mean, the pub is empty. It's like a clear, and scary indictment of what's happened to like small towns in England. And not just England. I mean, you could talk about small towns in many places in the world, in America too. And sort of the.
But obviously, there's this connection between this director and the UK, because like Ennis Men, when you did the review of that, it was also very connected to this idea of like small towns in the UK. So
especially, and Bait was like a huge criticism on like sort of tourism and people who have like second homes coming into these places, and then the people who actually live in these towns and villages being pushed out, and this huge criticism of Brexit and like the fishing laws and things. Anyway, and this obviously has that in it too. But so essentially, George McKay's character, who plays Nick, like I said, it begins with him trying to fix a leak. He has to go to a food bank because he has no job, and he gets the opportunity to. Here's some work. You can go on this fishing boat, which this guy, sort of who used to own it, this boat disappeared 30 years ago, and suddenly it's come back to the harbour, and it's an opportunity to, maybe get some income into the town. But when it comes back to the harbour, the person who owns the boat is saying, we're not going to tell anyone about this. So they recruit Nick and Liam who's homeless, to be the two fishermen to go on the boat and go out to sea and try and get the fish. And when they go out to sea, they actually manage to do pretty well for themselves. They come back, but when they come back to the village, they've gone back in time 30 years. Right? And the village is thriving. The harbour's busy. The pub is busy. It's it's lively. There's family there. There's love. There's even like Liam's character, who said is homeless for some reason, now has a girlfriend, has a daughter. And it seems everyone thinks these two guys are actually two other people who were the people in the boat who disappeared 30 years ago. And it's just such an engaging mystery. It has really like, I'm not saying it's like a really scary film, but it has like a really eerie factor. And yeah, it's all about that like loss of community. Where has it gone? Can it be redeemed? And there's obviously a really great conflict between Liam and Nick, because there's one person who wants to go back, and there's one person who wants to stay.
Yeah.
But how did they do it? How could they get back?
Question: when did you see
yeah.
this? Because I'm like looking up to see where if there's any
When
way
it
I
was
can actually
released.
watch it,
Yeah.
and it just seems
Yeah.
They
like
came out in April, March.
April.
right.
Okay.
Because I can't
Yeah.
see in any like nothing on
It was like a
cinemas, nothing on any streaming services. You can't even buy it off
Yeah.
of like Apple at the moment.
no. I
No,
mean, I presume it will be available on
I
some
hope so.
rent or buy
This
service
sounds
by
great.
in the next few months. I
Yeah,
mean, it was quite
I'll
an
keep an eye
independent
out.
film.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was
It's
just
the issue sometimes with these smaller indie films, like they
Mhm,
sound incredible, but they are
mhm,
so hard to get a hold of.
mhm. Yeah, I know, and especially like it's like it's like Cornish director, British
Yeah,
film.
yeah,
I
yeah.
know the BFI did a pretty big push for this to try and get it on a lot of
Mm,
screens.
mm.
But it
I
had
It's
quite
a
a
expect I
known,
limited
it's a
run.
expect it to be a
well-known
movie
cast, anyways.
in
Yeah,
a few
yeah, it'll
months.
be a movie. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
like I
well-known
said, it
cast,
feels right.
anyways. Like they have pretty good like actors from like Callum Turner and
Mm-hmm.
George McKay. Like we've seen them in a lot of stuff, so like it's not like it's super indie. I would
No,
hope
no.
that we can get our hands on this.
Yeah, and I would say the three films Mark Jenkins has done, this
Yeah.
would be his most accessible
Oh.
film. Um, and he films on like a really old
Mm.
camera, and it's like he does like the sound in post, so like it
Mm.
has like a really like 70s feel to it. And he's done that
Just
with
have the kind of
his last two films as well.
like that kind of feel where like it feels
Mm.
like the sound was recorded after it
Mm.
was filmed.
Yeah,
I like
yeah, yeah.
that.
Nice.
I do
And
like
it's,
that.
I think it's like a I can't remember the type of camera he uses. It's like a what's that? The turn. What's that
Yeah, the
called?
hand like the manual
Aye,
thing.
it's sort of
Yeah,
like that,
Jack
and it
Black
has
in
a
King
it's
Kong.
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
what's that? I can't believe forgot the name of
I
it.
do
But
have
anyway,
one of those. Yeah, my dad has one of those from when he was
mm,
younger and stuff, like a reporter camera kind of
yeah,
thing.
Cool.
Yeah,
and the reason obviously it's not because you don't have like big mic guys or they don't really have mics hidden in them to
Yeah.
record the
yeah,
sounds. They do it in
yeah.
post. It's really interesting. But yeah, it's like a really visually distinct film. It's
Mm,
beautiful. Yeah, it's a film that has so many mysteries to it as well
mm,
that you want to go back and unpack it.
Yeah.
So I'd
mm,
highly recommend Rose of
mm.
Nevada.
Yeah, amazing. And if it's his most accessible film, it gives an entry like level kind of like
Mhm,
film for people who are interested. If you vibe with this one and you like the weirder aspects, you
mhm.
can go back into
Yeah.
his
Yeah.
filmography.
I would say
And
this,
if,
and then
yeah,
Bait, and then Ennis Men is probably the most like
Ennisman
abstract.
is probably the most abstract one. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Anyway, Gonzalo, what about you? What films? What would you say your
I
best
haven't
film of
really
this?
seen, that's the thing, guys. Like outside of the two releases, the one that I just talked about
Mm,
and the one I saw with Kyle, I haven't really seen anything that's released this year. I've watched, I've rewatched and watched a lot of movies that I hadn't caught from like years ago.
mm,
But like the two ones that I've seen this year that are from this year have to be Supergirl that I just talked about, bit disappointing, and obviously Obsession, which we
mm.
talked about 2 episodes
You've
ago,
also
which was fantastic.
you've seen another film, Gonzalo.
What other film have I
I
seen
don't know.
this year?
Look at my background.
Oh, Hail Mary.
There you
Yes,
go.
yes, I've seen Hail Mary too. I for some reason I thought Hail Mary was last year already. Gosh. Yeah, no. So
It was like 3 months ago, man.
I, guys, I don't I have time. But yeah, no. So like, I really haven't seen that many films this year. But thankfully, the biggest disappointment was Supergirl, and I wasn't going in with any high hopes.
Would you
'Cause,
say
you
your
know,
biggest then, please? I think
yeah.
because you had no idea Obsession when we went to see it.
Obsession is my biggest one for sure.
Yeah.
Like, because Hail Mary, I was looking forward to,
Yeah.
and I enjoyed it just as much as I was looking forward to it. Like, that
Mm,
was a really solid movie, really great. It didn't really do anything beyond what I was expecting it to do.
Yeah,
Like,
because
it was
it's
a
an
wonderful film.
adaptation. Yeah,
Yeah,
you
it's an
expect what
adaptation of a wonderful
yeah.
thing. I expected great. It was fucking great. But then Obsession itself, that's one where I was not expecting anything. I had no idea what this was. You just drove me to watch this.
Kidnapped,
That
essentially,
was
yeah.
yeah. You just essentially
How
kidnapped
else are we
me,
gonna
and
get you to
be
watch a
honest,
film? Just
that's how you get me to watch
yeah,
this. You just tie me to the
take
seat and say, "Watch this film." And I was incredibly pleasantly surprised. And not only that, it does speak to what we talk about constantly, which is the idea of these smaller voices, smaller directors, smaller projects, which actually create ideas and discuss topics that we don't see giant studios tackle in really interesting ways, very original ways. And it's an example of how this can be financially successful.
Yeah.
mhm,
Obviously, it's always easier to be financially successful as a horror movie. the horror watching audience is a very safe bet when it comes to weird and esoteric topics,
Yep.
just because feeling unsettled and feeling uncomfortable is a thing that audiences expect when they go watch a horror film. So you can play a lot more with expectations, you can play a lot more with ideas within this genre than you can with other genres. It really is like the reason why we get these more interesting films within this genre
Yeah.
that end up breaking even at the minimum, and why we see that much experimentation with like bigger companies now, like A24, taking chances on like smaller projects within this genre, whereas like any other film that has to do more with like drama or action or anything of that sort, any other genre film seem to go with safer choices for directors and stories and stuff, because you do like an audience is open to this idea of their assumptions being challenged, being made uncomfortable, being taken in a direction that maybe they weren't expecting. Whereas with other genres, people are looking for something safe. Like if you watch a superhero movie and it's incredibly odd and esoteric, a lot of that audience is going to be put off.
Yeah.
They're not going to enjoy it. They're not coming back. They're not telling their friends about it. Because when they sit down to watch a big action blockbuster, what they want is big, dumb action blockbuster. They want something safe, something comfortable. The horror audience is already priming themselves to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So playing with stuff gives you a lot more room for that kind of actual experimentation and what we, I think, as a group like seeing in films, which is something new, something fresh, a different take, different ideas, executing things in different ways. So yeah, honestly, that was a breath of fresh air. I'm very happy that it actually did as well as it did in the box office. And
Still going.
yeah, it's still going. It's still
I was gonna
going
say, it's
very
not
strong.
stopped. Yeah, it's
It's not stopped. Still going very strong. As I was booking the tickets for Supergirl, I joked to my partner and I was like, "What if we just watch Obsession again instead?" So yeah, no, it's yeah, it just honestly, I was not expecting it at all, and it's one of those movies I don't think I would have watched unless Kyle drove me to watch it. Like,
Yeah.
unless you sat me down to watch it. If I had seen that trailer, I would have been like, actually, this seems uncomfortable. I maybe don't want to see this. Because I'm not a big horror fan, but weirdly enough, some of the best movies I've seen in years have come from this genre.
Yeah.
And again, I think it is because
Maybe,
it gives them like room to experiment.
yeah, maybe you need
Um,
to become a horror fan,
I
Farrell.
need to. Yeah, I
Clearly.
feel like I used to be a very big creature horror
Yeah.
fan growing up, just because I wanted to go into the whole like actual practical effects industry and stuff. So I was a big fan of horror, especially when it's creature horror and things of
Can
that sort. So
I?
I've watched a lot of
I'm
the
gonna
classic and stuff.
recommend you should
Yeah,
watch Halloween
yeah.
Kills.
Well,
Possibly the biggest horror known to man.
Halloween Ends, Kyle. Which one's worse?
Oh God, that's a good question, actually.
They're both equal. Halloween Kills has the line
Yeah.
40 years ago 40 million times, but also
Yeah.
Halloween Ends
Ends.
has the whole I'm evil because I was born evil trope.
Oh, great.
What
So
was what was the
eugenics.
guy called? Michael Jr.
Corey.
Corey. What a guy. That
On the
was
motorbike.
Oh.
You love the motorbike scene.
no,
Yeah,
no, I was
that's great.
upset, Lewis, because I thought we were going to cut to him and Michael holding each other on the motorbike, which is what I was expecting.
It was a very interesting editing decision, I must say.
Yeah, I was crying.
Right, Kyle, yeah,
Yeah.
the reason I didn't mention this honourable mention on my list was because I knew you wanted to talk about this.
It's going to be Project Hail Mary, isn't it? Just
Very Project Hail Mary.
Perfect.
And I assume that probably will not change.
Yeah.
it
By the
won't.
end of the year.
There's not going to be anything.
Well,
I mean,
Dune Part 3 is coming.
Yeah, that is
I'm
true.
mostly intrigued on how they're going to adapt
Tackle that.
those
Yeah.
two books that I think they're going to do. And if we get a little cameo at the end of that film suggesting on what's going to happen to somebody in the future of the Dune franchise, I'll be all
That'd
there
be
for
really
it.
fun. That'd be
Um,
really fun.
But yeah,
Thinking of
and
Jason Momoa. Yeah.
well, not Jason Momoa. That's what I was talking about. But
Oh, okay. Sorry,
Yeah,
I thought you were talking
um,
about that. Okay, never mind.
yeah, no. But for
That's
me,
spoiler.
Project Hail Mary, and I think is because, like we've talked about many times, I've been a fan of that book for years, And I have been so excited for this project, and Ryan Gosling's passion behind it has just been was something that was always making me feel comfortable with. At the time, I was always very kind of aware of the marketing and what they're going to have to do with the marketing, which was to include Rocky in the marketing, which is something you just cannot do with this film, especially when you're kind of saying from the offer of The Martian, which is obviously a very
Hard sci-fi.
hard, pardon me, sci-fi movie, and obviously, as much as this one does have hard sci-fi, it does have an alien in it. So it's a bit, slightly less. But yeah, I mean, Project Hail Mary, I mean, visually, just to start with, the fact that they made a practical ship, a practical hull. Rocky was for like 89%, I believe, was practical, and it was practical, puppeted, and
I actually got to meet some of the puppeteers for Rocky at the MCN Comic Con in London.
See, like,
I don't know if I forgot to mention that, but
that stuff worked amazing, and it was also like because it was a physical puppet, they could improv a wee bit more. As you said, I remember watching an interview. When I watched the Ted season 2 stuff, they did an interview and he did like an improv, and it cost them like 8 million because it's a CGI teddy bear, and he did an improv scene that they really liked, and they're like, we're gonna have to include this in the TV show, and that's gonna cost us $8 million. So I loved the fact he was practical. I think it was the best way they could do it. Giving him a voice was, I think, really good because it helps in the sense when you're not reading the book, where it's like he just learns the language, so you can still you hear the English because you're reading it through. And yeah, music, the soundtrack, perfect. The performance is perfect. Just the entire film is just perfect.
It's also one of those cases where like the film being so successful has led to people reading the book, and finding the things that the book does that the film doesn't, without creating that like big divide between film fans and book fans that you see a lot with adaptation. Like the film or the book was better. It's like, no, they're just like in conversation with each other in a really pleasant way.
Yeah, and as much as I love the book, I do low-key agree with Lewis's statement that it is better than the book because it is adapted better for general audiences.
It's more accessible.
Specifically, the Tal Nebe farms at the end, when they're adapting it to nitrogen, I completely understand that that's a scene that a good chunk of the book actually that they've taken out, and science wise is a bit too heavy, but such a good film. I mean, it's number one. I mean, but the funny thing is, if I was saying it, like my number one is in my top 5. 3 of them are horror this year so far, which is Obsession. The Bone Temple, and then Send Help.
Bone Temple was fantastic as well.
Which is like, I don't know the last few years that I've had so many horror films being in my top 5. Again, the year's still half young. We'll see what happens in the next 6 months. Odyssey. Who knows? That might jump in. That might be pretty high. I'll be impressed to see if a superhero film makes it in my top. Also, we've got Spider-Man, to be fair. Spider-Man might make it.
Kyle, I know Avengers Doomsday is going to be in your top 3. I just know it is.
Is it?
I really doubt that more each day, Lewis. But yeah.
Speaking of, have you guys watched They Will Kill You? Because I've heard some good things about it, and I didn't know this movie had
I know it's I can access it. I think at my parents.
Speaking of fun,
they've got they've got Sky.
Yeah, because
that's the thing.
That's the thing. Like I was thinking of giving it a look because of my Spanish thing. I do have access to it. So
HBO Max. Yeah, we'll be on HBO.
HBO Max.
Yeah. No, that's fair. I was thinking there's a big list of films that like are now coming out on like either streaming or like Sky Cinema, like The Running Man from last year. I'm just tempted. I know I got okay reviews, but I'm tempted to kind of give that a watch.
I don't want to watch it, see if it's interesting at all. Yeah, stuff like that.
Did you watch it, Lewis? Did you see it?
Yeah,
he did a review on it.
We see too many films.
Yeah, we do see too many films. But anyway, I guess I'll wrap things up here. So thank you guys for joining me.
Absolute pleasure as always.
Good to have the crew back.
The full crew. I will be back in a week's time because to celebrate the upcoming release of the Odyssey, we're going to be back doing our Christopher Nolan ranked Redux.
Gotta watch
I don't
Tenet.
think Gonzalo was here. And was following.
Yeah.
I don't think Gonzalo was here for when we did the first one. So we're going to be back looking at Christopher Nolan's films. What do we consider his
Yeah.
best? And I'm sure there'll be plenty of arguments.
Oh, man, so
when
many
that
arguments.
time.
This is gonna be a very
When that-
argumentative one.
when that time comes. So yes, next week Chris Nolan ranking. Be there for that, and of course the following week we'll hopefully. Actually, don't know. I don't know if we're going to be able to do an Odyssey review together because like summer's really
so.
kicked in. It'll be hard to get organised.
Yeah.
But anyway, join us for that. But look, we just give our opinions on those 2026 films and Supergirl. But at the end of the day, those were our unwanted opinions. Thank you very much.